Hello, good yo-yo people. I'm Nate, and this is Let's Talk Yo-Yo. Today, I am reviewing the Artemis by Unspoken YoYos. This is my review of the Artemis. This is the in the hand section, so what does it actually feel like in the hand before I throw it? I actually have the Apollo, which, if you don't know, the Artemis is the bimetal version of the Apollo. Unspoken's approach to making this a bimetal wasn't just to simply throw some rings in there, some stainless steel rings, and then just say it's a bimetal. They actually kind of redesigned the whole yo-yo, and you can really see that whenever you actually put them side by side. For instance, they flared out the gap a little bit more too. It's hard to probably tell on camera, but on the Apollo, it doesn't have as much of an angular shape as it does on the Artemis. The curve into the V shape is a lot more angular and a little bit more organic feeling on the Apollo than it is on the Artemis. And so right there, it's going to be way more competition driven. It's a little bit wider, very little, but just a slightly, but the gap feels like it's wider too. And so the feel in the hands pretty much kind of feels the same. Now, of course, this one's actually not blasted. I don't think Unspoken has done any just kind of glossy finishes on their yo-yos before, but it's actually kind of nice. So the glossy finish on this isn't quite as nice on the feel of the hand than something like a bead blast, the matte finishes that normally come on it. But I actually kind of like it. It looks really slick in this black, especially in that bimetal. It looks very much like I think Kerboulage did their, what was it, musket or something like that. I think they did their black like this, and it's actually not super tacky. Of course, you know, in the summer it might feel a little different whenever your hands are a little bit sweatier and clammier, but right now when it's still kind of cool out here, it's not too bad, and you're gonna be able to pull off some grinds, but nothing nearly like you would on a blasted yo-yo. But it's actually really nice. It looks really slick. I think that's the best thing. Is it looks really high end. It looks, on paper and in appearance, it looks like a competition-driven yo-yo. And so it is bimetal. They kind of took out, on the Apollo, they took out this little lip here to kind of fit room in there for the rings. And they also added sort of just an aesthetic line on the inside of the cup here, just a little simple line there to give it a little bit of a difference there. But other than that, it's flared out a little bit more. It's more of an angular shape here, opens up the gap a little bit more on the Artemis, and I think overall they had a really solid approach. I think I really appreciate Unspoken's approach to yo-yoing in the first place, and their design is that it's unique, and they think about all the little details without overcomplicating things. I think that's going to do it for in the hand. Let's go ahead and see how it actually plays on the string. Welcome back to the in the hand section with the Artemis. And so I mentioned in the hand section that this is definitely their most competition driven yo-yo to date. One of the things I really actually appreciate about Unspoken is their approach to yo-yos, and how most of their yo-yos so far have been really kind of just more not necessarily competition driven. You could certainly play them in any competition, but they've not had a competition yo-yo really, and so they took full advantage of that in a bimetal. I think most people, when they think of bimetal yo-yos, they really do think of competition ready, performance driven yo-yos, and that certainly is in this case. Now, I forgot to mention in the hand section, this is actually not exactly like it's going to be in the full production run. There were a few issues. One of the differences is that it's 0.2 grams lighter than what the production run will be. And so it does play, I guess, a little bit faster. Now, I don't have the production run yet, and it's not actually out yet. But I think for comparison for this review, it'll be good enough. I don't see how 0.2 is going to make such a difference that I'm going to have to do another review if I do end up getting a production run. We'll see. If I get to play that, I might go ahead and do another review, maybe just a brief one, and just kind of show maybe what the difference is. But that is one of the differences. And then they also said that the bearing seat was a little bit looser than they expected and that they wanted. I don't really see much of a difference there either. I think they're being picky, and that's okay that they're being picky. But I don't really see how this is a B grade, or, you know, but I also appreciate the fact that they're trying for perfection. So now the first thing I'll say about this yo-yo, just in the play, it plays very different than any other Unspoken. I feel like one of the great things about Unspoken yo-yos that I like about them and what they've put out so far is that everything of theirs has a personality. Most of their yo-yos have a very distinct feel and look that it sets them apart as a company, as a fairly new company still. This yo-yo doesn't have as much personality. And it's not a bad yo-yo. I really like the yo-yo a lot. And I could see how people on their team, if they were competing, that how they might really enjoy this yo-yo and kind of gravitate to this yo-yo for competition. But it doesn't have as much personality as the Apollo does. And I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing. The feel on the string is very solid. It has really good spin times. You should expect that from a bimetal yo-yo, considering that's kind of what the point is, in my opinion, is that you're really going to have some solid spin times and solid stability. You certainly have that for this yo-yo. It's going to, in that flared out gap, it's going to be better for tricks like horizontal and so on. It's going to keep the plane just a little bit better than maybe the Apollo would, because the gap does flare out a little bit more and there's less string drag there. It's actually not too bad on grinds. You're not going to get long grinds, and my hands are really dry right now. And it's kind of cool out here. It's about 60, 65 degrees out today. But if it was hotter in the middle of the summer, it's probably going to stick a little bit. So it might not be the best ideal thing to be playing outside. Let's go ahead and throw a trick. I really do enjoy the Artemis. I did say that it doesn't quite have the same like standout personality that some of their other yo-yos do. The more you push for that sort of performance base, I do feel like you take some of that personality out. And so it doesn't have quite that same, like, I love the murmur. I think the murmur is my favorite thing from Unspoken that I've played, and because it just has a personality of its own. It has a feel and a unique play than anything else that they have. And this kind of, I mean, this is going to tack off all those boxes that you are looking for in a competition-driven yo-yo. So you can't complain about that. The Artemis is a competition-based yo-yo, and Unspoken hasn't created a yo-yo that is very competition-driven, and I feel like that's good. They needed to go there, but at the same time, it's new territory. I do think they hit the nail on the head. I think they did a really good job of putting out their first competition-driven yo-yo and their first bimetal. I'm continually impressed by Unspoken and the things that they put out, and the Artemis is no different. So that's my review of the Artemis by Unspoken YoYos, and as usual, good day and good yo-yo.